So a lot of people have been asking me, what's up with all this homeless stuff, Connie? People don't associate me with working with the homeless or even really caring. And so I just wanted to take a minute and just say, I don't really know where this is coming from. Our next show, Something to Say, in April, is about the problem of greed and the problem of poverty and how the wealthy deal with addiction, isolation, depression. Well, guess what? So do the homeless people, or even just people living in poverty deal with addictions, isolation, and depression. And so I've been on a search for a very long time. I think it started when we were just moving to Calgary in 2006, and the city was just booming with money. There was money everywhere. It was hard to find a place to live. Rent was off the charts expensive. And since then we've come down a bit, but I remember being really moved by the fact that people here in Calgary could be homeless and yet still working. And I thought, that's wrong. Something happened inside of me. Something birthed in there that has not let go for 5 years. And I've been searching for answers lately. I've been searching on Twitter, Facebook, meeting with agencies that work with people who are homeless, and the information that I'm finding is blowing my mind. There is a new face of homelessness, at least in Calgary. I dare say Canada. I'm not sure about other cities, but in Calgary, we have a new face of poverty that's affecting people like you and I. People like myself and my family who sometimes use our line of credit to afford groceries every month. And yet we work normal jobs, we have careers, and yet this is affecting us. So I've been quite moved. Business as usual just isn't good enough for me anymore when it comes to combating poverty that we see in our nation. It's funny because when I started to gain a heart for the homeless, I would see them everywhere. I wouldn't just see them downtown. I would see them in suburbia where I live. I would see them on their bikes carrying pop cans, and people driving by not even really considering that to be abnormal. I would see them walking down just ordinary streets. I'd see them at gas stations pulling pop cans out of garbage cans and no one would flinch. I would see them washing windshields of people's vehicles. I would see them everywhere. I almost found it funny that every single day I run into a homeless person. It's really caused me to think about what we consider to be normal. Do we consider it to be normal for someone to work and not have a place to go home? To sleep in a church basement or in a shelter on a mat with 300 other people surrounding them, or on a street under a bridge where no one knows where they are. Even the word homeless, it's so casual. And yet we don't consider the fact that that means that that person doesn't have a home. When does it become normal for someone not to have a place to call their own if they are indeed really trying to contribute to society? These are some of the problems that Calgarians are facing, and that Calgarians are actually working very hard to solve in their 10-year to End Homeless campaign. Derek Cook of the Poverty Initiation in Calgary here is really trying to work on how we can combat those kind of poverty situations. I've just written a book. It's called Culture Rebel, and one of the aspects of being a culture rebel, which is also the blog, is about being a culture maker, about looking around and seeing what is missing in society, what are the problems, and how can we create culture that is meaningful and brings purpose. What do I have in my hand that I can do to make a difference? A culture rebel is someone who sees brokenness and wants to do something about it. My heart's been really moved by the scriptures where it talks about caring for the widow and the orphan, for standing up for the marginalized. We may not be called, all of us, to work hands-on with the homeless, but we are called to care. We are called to see them and to acknowledge that they are yet alive. They are still there, and their hearts cry out, "This is not who I am." Don't judge me for what you see on the outside, because I used to be an engineer, or I used to be a father, or I used to live in a wonderful home. We don't know their stories, and I think it's time to hear these people out. In just over a month, we're putting on this show called Something to Say at the Vertigo Theater, some friends and I. And we want to show how similar we really are. My heart is moved beyond measure. I don't want to carry on with business as usual, like I said. I want to learn how I in my ordinary life can help. What can a mom do? Well, I think that if we put our heads together, we can discover something. We can choose to see the broken. We can choose to see those who are in need. And what I'm finding is shocking, but I know that there's something that can be done. And it starts with being aware, and it starts with caring, and it starts with saying, you know what, I can't go back. Let's do something about this thing. And I'm wondering, are you in?